Hello and welcome back to the Air Armoury. I'm JRH and today I'm looking at the Baikal IZH-38 air rifle. Baikal are a Russian manufacturer of airguns and firearms, amongst a number of other things, including power tools, and they're made at the Izhevsky-Makhnovsky Zavod factory in western Russia, which the Blue Book of Airguns tells me is a state-owned factory. So the factory was founded in 1942 and is still going today and still making Baikal airguns, although I have read that it's actually now run by the Kalashnikov company. So although the factory was founded in 1942, it's not clear exactly when the Baikal name was introduced, but from the research I've done, it indicates that it was first being used in the 1960s. And Baikal guns are currently imported to the UK by York Guns. So this model, the IZH-38, is a target and plinking rifle, and whilst I don't know for sure, I suspect it's probably a precursor to the later MP512 air rifle, which incidentally I do also have a video on, so I'll put a link to that in the description below. There's not a vast amount of information out there on the IZH-38, so I'm not entirely sure when they were made, but I suspect in the 1970s and or 80s. The reason being that it doesn't look or feel as old as 60s, and it must be pre-1991 as it's marked USSR rather than Russia. Now I have seen these referred to as IJ-38s, which is a letter prefix used by Baikal on some of their other guns, such as the IJ-22. Now I'm not sure if any of these were marked as IJ-38, so I stand to be corrected, but as far as I'm aware, IZH is the proper letter prefix for the 38, as that is what the markings translate to, which you'll see later on. So let's take a closer look at the Baikal IZH-38 air rifle. The IZH-38 is a break barrel spring piston air rifle. It's 40.25 inches or 102.5 centimeters long and weighs 4.9 pounds or 2.2 kilograms. It has a 17.5 inch or 44.5 centimeter long rifled barrel and was available in 177 caliber only. And interestingly, if I open the barrel, you can hopefully see that the breech seal is actually on the front of the main cylinder rather than in the barrel itself, as with most break barrel guns. The barrel is finished in a conventional bluing, but the main cylinder is actually finished in a very slightly textured matte finish. It has a very Baikal shaped sporter style hardwood stock, which is finished in quite a dark stain and then a gloss lacquer over the top. The wood underneath is a lot lighter than that. And then, as with all other Baikal guns I've seen, it has nice little metal screw cups set into the stock. In terms of hardware, as with all other Baikal guns I've seen, it has a very hard brown plastic butt plate, almost like Bakelite, and then Baikal's somewhat distinctively shaped plastic trigger guard. This obviously has a replacement screw at the front there, which admittedly doesn't look great, but it is at least the correct length and a thread. So I'm now going to remove the stock to show you the trigger and safety mechanism. The trigger is single stage and not adjustable. It's a relatively heavy trigger and it does have a fair bit of creep. The trigger unit as a whole has quite a nice feature to aid disassembly in that it's held in place by a bayonet style fitting. So to remove the entire trigger unit, you first remove this pin, and then this whole trigger unit can be twisted down into this gap here, which unlocks this pin, which means that the trigger unit along with the spring and piston can all be pulled out the back of the gun. Like with some other Baikal guns, the IZH-38 doesn't have a safety as such, but it does have a form of anti-bear trap safety mechanism built in to prevent you pulling the trigger until the gun is cocked and the barrel is closed. First of all, without the rifle being cocked, you can't pull the trigger, and that's because the trigger hasn't been engaged yet. So this piece here is the sear, and when the piston is pushed back, this tab at the back of the piston here trips a lever inside the trigger unit, which causes the sear to engage. Now I'm not going to try and cock the gun without the stock on, but I can manually show you what happens by pressing down on the sear, and you should see the trigger then flick forwards, so that's engaged and ready to fire, and it will be able to fire because the barrel is closed. But this metal bar here prevents you from pulling the trigger until the barrel is closed. To show you how that works, I'm first going to engage the sear again. So this lever is pushed down by this pin in the side of the cocking link, but when the cocking link moves backwards, the pin runs down into the shaped cutout in this bar, and this bar is forced up under the pressure of this spring in the trigger unit, which effectively puts it into that position. And when that happens, the other end of that bar runs along round the trigger and has this little arm on it which flicks up and prevents the trigger being pulled. But if we then put this back into the position it would be when the barrel is all closed, that's moved that arm down and out of the way, and that small movement is enough to unlock the trigger and allow it to fire. In terms of sights, it's limited to open sights. There's no facility to mount a scope, although I understand that later versions did have. Now the rear sight is a simple bit of stamped steel with a basic notch cut into the back of it. It's held in place by a dovetail, so it can be adjusted for windage by tapping it either way. It's also adjustable for elevation using this screw on top. I don't think that screw is original though. This bobble to the side of it suggests that it probably originally had an elevation wheel with small indents on the underside, so it would have adjusted in incremental clicks. The front sight is a nice sturdy cast metal sight unit with a protective hood over just a simple post. I think that's just press fit onto the end of the barrel, so it probably could be removed. Overall the sights aren't too bad at all. I actually quite like them. Looking at the markings, most Baikal guns I've seen are devoid of markings on the top of the main cylinder, but this one is an exception to that. As you can see at the back, it has a couple of Russian Cyrillic characters followed by 38, and those characters translate as IZH. I have actually been told by a native Russian speaker that it was common for companies to have model numbers in reference to the factories that they were made, and as I said earlier, Baikal guns are made in the Izhevsky Zavod factory, and the first three letters of Izhevsky being IZH. On the left hand side of the barrel block we have the serial number, this one being 900499457. Unfortunately I don't have any information on how many were made or what the serial number range was. And then turning over to the right hand side of the gun, we have the Baikal script logo, and then above that made in USSR. Now whilst Baikal are a Russian brand, the Russian Federation as it's formerly called was only established in 1991. Prior to that it had been the Soviet Union, with the USSR of course being the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. I'm now going to test the rifle. I'm going to first test the accuracy. I'm going to fire 10 of these 8.3 grain SMK black BS45 flat pellets at one of these 14 centimetre square targets at a distance of around 12 metres. Here I have my target. 9 of the pellets are all in this central area, which isn't bad, although not the tightest grouping ever, but that's more than fine for plinking with open sights. There was just one stray over here. Now I'm happy enough with the accuracy, as when I was adjusting the sights before making the video, I just couldn't get them right. Whenever I got them to where I thought they should be spot on, the rifle seemed to just indiscriminately spit out pellets in every direction. So I'm now going to test the power by firing another 10 of those SMK BS-45 pellets over the chronograph. Here I have my chronograph test sheet, and I've already done all of my calculations. Now with those 8.3 grain SMK BS-45 pellets, I got an average velocity of 469.28 feet per second with a spread of 83.3 feet per second, the highest being 494.6 feet per second and the lowest being 411.3 feet per second. And using that average of 469.28 feet per second, that gives me a power of 4.06 foot-pounds. Now the only data I can find on the power or velocity of the Baikal IZH-38 is from the Blue Book of Airguns, and that says that they should be between 410 and 498 feet per second. So although this particular example has a bigger spread than I would like, it's about where it should be. So there you've seen the Baikal IZH-38 air rifle. Now I generally really like Baikal air guns, and this one's no exception to that, although it does have a slightly harsh firing cycle for a low powered plinker. Now most of their guns are relatively similar in terms of looks and operation, but this one just has nothing to really set it apart from the others, such as the more adjustable open sights on the MP512 or the barrel release catch on the IJ22. So it's okay for what it is, but it's nothing spectacular. If I wanted a Soviet era Baikal, I'd much rather have an IJ22 than this. If you would like to get one yourself, I've seen them advertised for anywhere between £40 and £100, although I paid considerably less than that for this one. So thanks for watching. I hope you found the video interesting. If so, be sure to like, comment and subscribe to the Air Armoury, and until next time, keep your arms in the air.